Hi everyone, welcome here. So in the today's video, I'm going to show you how we can interact with the different type of elements and how we can perform different type of actions on different type of elements. So first let us start with the input box, and then we will discuss about radio buttons, check boxes, drop down boxes, and so on. So first let us start with the input box. So basically what is an action? Action is basically an operation which we can perform on the element. So Playwright is provided different methods which are available, and by using those methods, we can handle different type of elements like input box, check boxes, radio buttons, select options, and so on. So let us see one by one. First, let us start with the input box. So for that, I'm going to create a new test under my VS Code editor under test tab. Now I'll name it as input box dot spec dot JS. Now I'm going to write a new test here. So before writing a new test, I'm just going to import test and expect functions from the Playwright module. So for that, I'm writing require, and in the single quotation, specify @Playwright /test that I'm going to store in a const variable const. And here I need test function, and then I need expect function. Right. So once I have imported, now I'm going to start writing a test. So in the test, I'm going to write the parameter I want to check handle input box. And now the second parameter is an anonymous function. And inside the anonymous function, we need to pass page fixture. And before that, we need to specify async. Right. So now we need to implement this anonymous function. So to implement this anonymous function, we need to write arrow. So now in this, we need to implement this. So first thing, I'll start launching my web page, and let us try to interact with some input box element. Go back to my application. This is my application. So here we can see different type of input boxes: name, mobile number, email, password, and so on. So let us try to interact with some input element, and we'll see what are the different type of actions we can do on the input box and what are the different assertions we can add on the input box. So first thing, let me launch this application. So for that, I'm going to use one method called page dot. Page is a fixture, so page dot go to, and here we can specify the URL of application. And whenever you start using the page fixture, we need to use update. Now this will launch our application. Then let us try to interact with the input box. So there are so many input boxes are there. Let me take one input box. Input box, let's say first name field. Okay, so in the first name, we need to capture the locator of this element. So first thing, we need to inspect this element and see what are the attributes are there for this element. You can see input is a tag name, and then type, class, ID is also available, placeholder. There are multiple attributes are there. So or else you can use XPath or CSS, whatever locator you want. I'm just going to use selector hub, and this will automatically generate CSS and XPath and so on. So whichever you want, you can use, or else you can create your own locator. So for now, I'm just creating my own locator for this element. I can use ID directly. I can say ID equal to name. Right. So ID equal to name. So this will locate the element. That is our input box. This should be single or double quotations. Yeah. So this is the element which will go and locate the element. Now I'm using this as a locator, XPath locator. Now go back to your script. Now let us get that element first. So before interacting the element, before performing the action. So what is the main action we perform on the input box is we will provide the text. We'll pass some text into the input box, right? So to pass the text into the input box, simply what you can do is by using page fixture, we can get the element by using call locator method. So page dot locator, and then specify the locator, whatever you have captured here. This is the locator. And then you can directly call fill method. So fill is a method through which we can pass the value. So I'm just passing John, something like this. Right. So this is the way we can pass the value into the input box. And there is another approach is also there. We already discussed that in our previous video. Suppose if you want to fill the value in the input box directly, you can say page.fill method, you can directly call. And then in the first parameter, you need to specify the locator like this. And the second parameter, you can pass the whichever value you want to pass inside the box. So there are two approaches which have. So first we can get the locator of the element, locate the element, and then perform the action. This is the action. Fill is a method through which we can pass the value into the input box. Or else we can directly call the fill function from the page picture, page.fill, and directly specify the locator, comma, and the value. So both are correct. You can use whichever approach you want. So I'm trying to use the first approach now. So this is a simple statement which we can use to pass the value into the input box. So now we can perform certain validation. So before passing the value into the input box, what we can validate on the input box, we can check whether the input box is visible or not. And initially the box is empty, right? So we can also check whether it's empty or not. And sometimes it is non-editable. So we can also check whether it is editable or not, enabled or not, we can check. So there are some different functions are available to check this. So let me just use those functions. So first, await. So we need to use always await whenever you access the page picture. Now I'm trying to get the same locator, same element. Now, before passing the data into the element, before passing the text into the element, what I will do is I will basically check that element is visible or not, right? So await page.locator, and I want to check whether it is visible or not. So for that, I can add one assertion by using await expect. I can call expect function. In the expect, I can pass the locator. So this is basically locator await page.locator. So this will return the element, and once we get an element, then we can check it is visible or not. So for that, we can call one more method to be visible, to be visible. So if the element is visible on the page, now this assertion will pass. If the element is not visible, this assertion will be failed. So this, by using this function, we can check the input box is visible or not. So this is applicable for all kinds of elements, not only specific to input box. And if you want to check any element which is visible on the web page, you can just call this function. Okay, now this is the one assertion. Now I want to check the input box is empty or not. Before passing the data, I want to check the input box is empty or not. So then I can add one more assertion, take the same element, and instead of to visible, I'm just call one more method called to be empty. So this is another useful method, to be empty. So this will pass if the element is having no value, it is an empty. And if it is not empty, then it will fail. So this is another function which we have. And suppose I want to check whether the input box is editable or not. So then I can add one more assertion, editable or not. Same element, same first name element. Now instead of to be empty, I just call one more method called to be editable or not. So this is one more function we have to call. So this will basically check if the element is able to edit or not. The data can be editable or not. And we can also check the data, the input box is enabled or not, disabled or not. We can also verify. So for that, we can use one more function called dot to be enabled, to be enabled. So this function will pass, this assertion will pass if that element is able to enable or it is enabled state. So these are the different type of assertions we can add on the input box. So before passing the value, we can verify something on the input box. So to be visible checks the element is visible or not, the element is empty or not, it doesn't have any data or not, editable or not, and to be enabled or not, it will check. And then we can pass the data into the input box, and then we can perform the action. Same thing we can repeat for all the input boxes. Now let me try to execute this step, and let me save it. So after providing this value, I just want to pass your script so that it will go very faster execution. So I can just pass your code for some time before exiting the page. So for that, I can use something called, we have one more function at the end. We can use await page dot wait for timeout. Sorry, let me just add this one. Await. So all are lowercase character. So await page dot wait for timeout. Wait for timeout. And here you can specify how much time you want to pass your script. Let's say 5000 milliseconds, which is equal to seconds. This is for just for passing the code. Okay, passing the execution for some time. Okay, now let me just try to execute the script and see whether it is able to interact with the element or not. Let me save it and then go to terminal, open the new terminal. And now I'm trying to execute this code. So to execute code, so we have to execute this command npx playwright test. Under test, we have to specify the test file name exactly. So the file name is what? Input box. So I'm just providing input box dot spec dot js. Project is Chromium. I just want to run on the Chromium, and also I want to see the execution on the browser. So I just want to run headed mode. So I can say -" headed. So just I want to see the execution on the browser. All right. Now let me just execute. Okay, some spelling mistake. So just a moment. So there is no dot, -" headed. Okay. Now it is started my application. Now let's launch the browser. Now you can see the data is got entered into the input box. And before entering it, I have put some assertions on the particular element. Now all my assertions are successfully got passed. Okay, so this is how we can perform action on the input box element. So we can check it is visible or not, empty or not, editable or not, enable or not. And we can directly pass the data by calling fill. So this is the one approach. And then if you want to directly call fill, you can directly call from the page fixture. So whenever you use page, we need to use await. So page.fill directly you can say, and a locator, and then value you can pass. This is also another approach which we have in the Playwright. Now I'm executing one more time. Now test is got executed. So now we can see the same value is got entered into the name field. So this is simply we can handle input box. So similarly, there are few more elements which we can handle, like checkboxes and radio buttons. Now let us see how to handle checkboxes and radio buttons. So before going to checkboxes, let us try to handle radio buttons because both are having same functions. So if you know how to handle radio buttons, you can easily handle checkboxes. Now let me show you how to handle radio buttons and checkboxes, which are there in the same page. Now if you come back in the page, there are a few radio buttons are there, female, male, and other. And if you scroll down, there are some more weak checkboxes are there, right? Now, first, let us try to handle the radio buttons, and we'll see what are all actions we can perform on the radio buttons. And along with them, we also see some more assertions, especially related to the radio buttons. Okay. Now, so let us go back to VS Code editor. Now I'm going to create one more script, save it. Now go to the test and new file and handle radio buttons dot spec dot js. So to handle the radio buttons, again, it is a same approach, but we need to follow different methods. So let me just copy the same test and place it over here. So we need to import the test package as it is. And here I'm just trying to change the name, handle radio button. And the same page I'm going to use, and let me remove this code. Okay, so let me remove this code. Now let us see how to interact with the radio button elements. So for that, what I will do is, so first thing, we have to capture the locator of the radio button. So normally in the radio buttons, what we will do is, we will check or uncheck. So normally if you have two radio buttons, you can select only one radio button from the group. You cannot select multiple radio buttons. At a time, you can select only one radio button from the radio buttons group. So whichever the radio button you want to check, you have to get that element first. Now go back to the page. Now I just want to locate this element. Let's say female element, it is there, or male element, whatever you want, you can take. Let me take the male element. Now if I look at this, this is a XPath and this is a CSS which is given. So let me use this element. So this will exactly match this radio button element. Now I'm getting this locator XPath, and then first get that element, and then we'll perform the operation on the radio button. Okay, now let's handle radio button. So let's perform certain action on the radio button. So first thing is, what is the main action we will perform on the radio button is, we will check the radio button. We will select that option, right? So simply what you can do is, we can call page.locator and specify whatever locator you want to use. You can just pass this locator here and single quote. And this is the XPath locator, and this is representing the element. Now I want to select that radio button. I want to check the radio button. Simply call check method like this. So this will automatically select or check the radio button. So other option is also available. Suppose if you don't want to call locator method, we can call the check method directly from the page. So this is another approach we have. Let's say from await page fixture dot, directly you can call check method. Inside this, you can pass the locator directly, whichever locator you have used, XPath or CSS, whatever, you can just pass inside the method. That's it. So this is another approach which will also check the radio button. Page dot check, directly can specify the locator. In other way, we can use page dot locator and specify the locator, that is an XPath or CSS, whatever, then call the check function. So there are multiple approaches which we have in the Playwright. You can use whichever approach you want. So this particular method or function check will automatically select a radio button. So which radio button? Mail radio button it will select. Okay. Okay, fine. So now it is got selected. So once you selected, what else we can verify on the radio button? We can check whether it is checked or not. Right. So how we can verify whether it's checked or not? Simply again take the same element. And now I want to put some assertion on this because we already checked it. So once you check the radio button, again, I want to check whether it is already checked or not. So simply we can call one method called to be checked. So this is the element await page.locator, and this is the actual element. We need to add this element to the assertion. So we need to use await expect. Inside the expect, we need to pass this await page.locator, and this is a locator. This is the actual element. And then we need to add assertion dot to be checked. To be checked. So this is a function we have to call. So what exactly will happen is it will pick this element, same radio button, and it will check it is checked or not. If it is already checked, the assertion will pass. If it is not checked, assertion will fail. So we already checked the radio button before. So definitely this assertion will pass. So apart from this, we have two more approaches we have to add this. So what we can do is there is another assertion we can put locator. So here instead of this is the element basically, right? So this will get the element, and instead of to be checked, what we can do is, okay, this is the element await expect page.locator. This is the element, and here we call one method called is checked. And this will either returns true or false. If it is already checked, returns true. If it is not checked, return false. So once it is returns true, that we need to compare with our expected value. So I can say dot to be truthy. So this is a one more function which we can use. What exactly happens here is, so this particular part inside the expect will return true or false. So if that radio button is got checked, it returns true, that we are comparing with the truthy. This will also returns true. And if it is written false, we are expecting truthy. So it will mismatch. So this will definitely fail. So this is another way of putting the assertion on the radio button. Basically, we are checking it is already checked or not. Okay. So I'm putting these two assertions on mail radio button. So because we already checked it, now definitely these two assertions will pass. So now I have one more radio button called female radio button. So this is not checked actually. So let us apply the same assertion on the female radio button. So what I'll do is let me inspect this female radio button and let's capture this locator. And now let us try to handle the female radio button. So I can say wait page.locator, and this is our locator. And double quotations, inside the double quotations are not allowed. So we can just keep the single quotations, especially in XPath. This is the locator. And now I'm not going to check this female radio button. Without checking this, without selecting this, I want to verify the status. So here, because we already selected or we already checked the radio button, so these two assertions definitely will pass. Now I want to check negative way, like whether the radio button is not selected or not, I want to check. So here I'm expecting the checkbox is got selected, which is already checked. But here I'm expecting female radio button should not be selected because we have not done check actually. So we can put the opposite of this particular assertion. So simply what you can do is await, expect, and here we can say await page.locator. So this will basically return the element, right? So return the element and dot. Here you can check is checked, same thing is checked. So basically if it is not selected, if the radio button is not selected, obviously this will return false, right? This part will return false. If the radio button is not selected or not checked, this part will return false. So that we are expecting. So here instead of to be truthy, you can use to be falsy. This is another method which is available. So here what exactly we are doing, this is the positive and this is the negative way. So here what we are expecting is the radio button should be checked actually. That should be true. And here the radio button should not be selected. So obviously this will return false. And here we are also expecting false from this function. So definitely this also will pass. This assertion is also passed. So here we are checking mail radio button is checked or not. It is already checked. That we are expecting. But here we are expecting female radio button should not be checked. It is not selected. So that we are expecting here. Okay. So now let us try to check. This is a male radio button. This is a female radio button. Okay. Now let us try to execute and see. And we have already checked the male radio button, female radio button. We have not checked. So obviously all three assertions will be passed. Now, just I'm passing the script after execution so that we can clearly see the UI. Now, save the file and go to the terminal and execute the script. So this time I'm executing one more spec file, which is radiobuttons.spec.js. I say radio buttons.spec.js. Now I'm running on the Chromium browser in the headed mode so that I can see the UI. Let me just save the file first and after doing everything and then execute. So now it is started. Now I can just observe. Now mail radio button we have selected successfully. Now if I look at the results, you can see my assertion is got passed. So that means what? We already checked the mail radio button. So these two assertions are passed because we are also expecting same. And female radio button we have not selected. So I also am expecting it should be false actually. So this is also matched. So it is got passed. So this is how we can handle radio button. So at a time we can select only one radio button at a time. Okay. So this is how we can perform different actions on input box and then radio buttons. So in the next video, I will show you how to handle checkboxes. All right. So that's all for this video. So thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.